Hello all, happy Friday. I hope you are doing well. I wanted to do this video because this is something that came up in a conversation we had in the group. It's about text messages and how to format them. And this question often comes up in a lot of the different forums for indie authors, and everybody always asks, how do you format text messages? Now, I've seen it done different ways. I'm going to show you how I typically do it and how I've done it for my own personal books as well as books for my clients. I'm also going to show you a way that a traditional publisher set their text messages and how we can reproduce that kind of look. But whichever way you do, you need to think in terms of print and ebook. And in most cases, you may need to have two different styles because what's going to work and look good for a print book may not look good for an ebook. Or there may be some extra code that we have to put into the ebook to make it look good. All right, so I'm going to start off with showing you a couple of examples. And I'm going to show you a traditional book that I bought and how they did the text messages and how I found how they did text messages incredibly annoying in the book, in the ebook. And I'll show you how they were supposed to look, or how they look in the print book, because the print book, they actually look quite nice. So this is actually a young adult romantic comedy, and this is what they look like in the print book. I think they look pretty nice. It kind of replicates how how messages are done on phones, where we have the person's name and what they say in a box, and then this particular one they actually rotated, so they did left to right. So here's a left one, and then this one's right aligned, just to mimic the conversation. Now my phone is I have an Android, so this isn't how my phone shows text, but I do use Facebook Messenger a lot, and this is exactly how it shows text. So it does one left aligned and one right aligned. And that's okay. That is fine for a print book. However, this looks like garbage in an ebook. All right. And I could never quite figure out, because it's like, here's the one conversation, me, and so this is right aligned, but the next one wasn't left aligned. So I don't know if there was just a bunch of errors in the formatting. And this book had just formatting errors galore. I was kind of abhorred because this is a traditionally published book. So here is a perfect example of why you don't want to use the left and right aligned in a book, because when it becomes right aligned in an ebook, because when it becomes right aligned, we will get these runts, and we just really have no control over these. Now, they don't look as bad when they're left aligned, but when they're right aligned, they're just annoying. So when I was reading this book, I just almost gave up on it. It was a cute book, and I almost gave up on it because the formatting was so annoying. So we don't want this to happen. So when you're thinking about formatting texts for your print and ebook, you need to think about it in two different ways, because you can format your print book one way, but format for your ebook in another way. Now, I've seen a lot of authors set text in their ebook in bold. I find this annoying. Bold in ebooks is just way too bold. It's harsh on the eyes, and I do not recommend doing that. So avoid bold. How can we get it to stand out differently than your regular text if you want it to stand out? Well, there's many different ways, and I'm going to show you a couple ways that I do it. This is one book that I did it in. This is actually the print version, and then we will take a look at the ebook version as well. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So I'm going to bring this up so you can see. All right, so now that we have that coming up, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what it is. Now, this particular book, my main character actually did not have a cell phone for the most part of the book. And when she did get a cell phone, she never really texted anything that had any relevance. So I never put anything, any of her texts in the book, except till the very end. So there was only one text conversation throughout the whole entire book. And the only thing I did was I set it in a sans serif, so you really can't see, and I kept it in line with the text. So all the texts are within regular text. So I pick up my phone and type a text, no hesitation when I hit send. It's just a simple hey. And so I set hey in a sans serif font. But that's a start. He responds immediately, hey back. And so his response was in sans serif. And then if we go to the top of the page, she puts my response is, and then what she responded with is in a sans serif as well. And this translates well into an ebook. Let's find where it's at so we can take a look at it. All right, so in the ebook, you can see hey, hey back, and then those last three songs were awesome. This is all set in a sans serif. So we can see that these were texts. All right, so that's one way to do it. However, you're going to have those books where we have long conversations. So here's a book that has long text conversations. All right. And so what I typically do is I'll set them in a sans serif font and then I'll indent them, okay? And then I'll set the person's name that sent the text in all caps. All right, so that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to use icons, and that's how I did it in one of my YA books. I just found some graphics that created little headshots, and I just kind of colorized them to make them resemble my characters. Now, I write YA, I can do the cutesy stuff. However, if this is for like a thriller book, you may not want to do the cutesy stuff. And then this enabled me to put in emojis as well. So this is one way you can do it. You'll see that they are indented like a block quote. And then I have the icons of the characters, who it's from, and then who it's to. And then I have the text message set in a sans serif font. So that's another way you can do it. Now, here is an even other way you can do it. This is a client's book of mine. Let's see, a book of one of my clients. That's probably the better way to say it. And she had several characters in her book, and they're all kind of astrological gods. And so we used the astrological symbol for each of the characters. I set who the text was from in the same font as the body text. Then I separated it from the actual text with a colon and set the text in italics. All right. But one thing I did was I aligned the entire text away from the name. All right. So let me look at, I'm going to do a quick search for a couple of conversations where it helps to see it a little bit better when there's several text messages in a row as to why I did this. All right, so here's an example. Now this is one of the black pages, so it's actually in white here. But by aligning the text together here, we can read the whole entire text and then immediately go to the next text and know what it says. Now, we could keep it this way if we wanted, but I found it easier by aligning that. It would be easily read and you can see the difference between the two. All right, so you may say, well, how do I align that text? I mean, that looks like I'd have to do a lot of spaces. But no, InDesign has this great feature. If you go to where you want the text indented, so you want this bottom line to be indented to where this D is, all right? So all you have to do is go to Type, Insert Special Character, Other, Indent to here. And if we look at the code, we know Control backslash is what we do. So that's how I do it, Control backslash. Now, let's look at one of my books. Not that one. So I could have done this one that way by just having, we don't need that one. So, but that kind of looks jagged. That could work, but I didn't, if everybody's name was equal length, or if we tabbed this over to where it would be aligned with this, then I'd be okay with that. But not everybody was equal length, and it made it kind of look funny. So consider doing that under certain circumstances. Then I will show you. Now, for this particular book, I just set it in sans serif and then the name in all caps, so you could easily read the text conversation fairly easy. And for client's book, I did something very similar. Set it in sans serif and the name of the person in all caps. Also, I will give my clients options on how they set it. And 90% of the time, most clients will choose this where it's indented even further than the regular indent. It's indented to, if we look at our paragraph menu, it's 0.5, so it's indented a ½ inch in. And then it's also indented on the right by 1/4 of an inch, so it creates that block quote look. And then set the name in all caps, and then set everything in a sans serif. All right, and this is very reproducible in an ebook, and it's a good way to do it. Now, you can also do it sticking with the same font, which is what I did here. This is a sample that I did, and she chose not to do it this way, so she didn't like this as much as the other one. So you could easily set it as a block quote like we did the other one, keep it in the same font, so it's the serif font, put the person's name in all caps, and then italicize the rest of the quote. So that's another way to do it. Here is another example where I set it in a monospaced font. So this is Courier, and I actually put the person's name above with the text below. Now, all of those options are reproducible in an ebook because an ebook will display monospaced fonts. Most ebook devices have a monospaced font, so it will view it in monospaced. So that's one way to do it. So now what we're going to do, now that you give an idea of all the different ways you can do it, I would just avoid doing it bold. So let's take a look at this. Well, Stephanie, choose the right thing. This is a traditionally published book, and we're going to reproduce how they did the text messages, all right, which is fine in some cases. However, this does not reproduce very well at all in the ebook version, but I'm going to show you a way that we can get it to reproduce in an ebook version. So we're going to do that now. So what I did is I took my Noah book. This is how I had formatted it originally, all right? So I redid it and formatted it this way. And this is all in InDesign. These are not separate text boxes that I grade. These are actually, there is a feature in InDesign that allows you to set a border or shading behind text, all right? And that's exactly what I did, all right? And I did a 20% gray text, and then a 40% gray text. All right. Now, if you wanted the left and right align version, you could easily do that. But I think the left and right align version, it just has the eyes going every which way. And so sometimes it's hard to follow. So if you like this look, you can just set it to be left aligned. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to export this to an ebook, because this is something that we can actually reproduce in an ebook. So you'll see here, I lost it again. All right, so you can see here, this is how it came through. You can see this is a darker gray and this is a lighter gray. But the only problem is it doesn't have any padding around the letters. All right, so in InDesign, we can set the padding, and I do have padding set. If we go to shading, this offset, this is the padding. All right, so if I took these off, make this all 0, the font is going to be real close to the edges, and we don't want that. It's going to look like what we're getting in the ebook now. However, that does not reproduce in an ebook when we export it from InDesign. All right. However, this is fixable if we go in and manipulate the code. So this is one of those things where you would have to go into the code and add a padding to that style. You could add like probably a 10 pixel padding all the way around, and it would give those text boxes that breathing room that it would need. All right. So my question to you is, how do you like to see text formatted in your print books? What are some ways that you like it? And if you have seen a book that has done text really well, take a screenshot of it and share it with us. It's always great to see how other people are doing it. What is your favorite method? And if you want to know how to do certain things in InDesign, let me know. If you saw something that you saw somebody do text messages effectively, but you don't know how to set it up in InDesign, let me know, and I'll be happy to do another video to show you how to do it. All right, and if you want to know how I did this, I'm going to quickly show you. I already have the style set up, but I'm going to redo them. So what I did is, first off, I took it off the baseline grid, because with the text frames, you do not want it to fall on the baseline grid. And the baseline grid is that blue line. So now if you look at it, none of these lines fall on that blue line like the other ones do. So that's the first thing you need to do. So this one, I just removed the space. I think I had a space below. I actually removed the indent. So we're going to remove the indent on those. And we'll remove the spacing above and the spacing below for now. All right, so I am going to make this first line. It's going to have a slight separation from the line above. And we are actually going to set it in a 70% black. And then we're going to actually set it to a smaller font, maybe like 8 point, and then I could probably make it a little bit more, widen the tracking on it. So me to Sierra, this is what it looks like in screen view, and that'll be fine. Now we're going to keep this in the sans serif font, but we want to add, first off, we want to take away the line spacing, because since we are not setting this to a baseline grid, this 15-point line spacing is a little much, so we're going to take it down to a 12, and we are actually going to have a space after, so it'll separate. All right, so that's what it looks like right now, but we are going to add that box, that shaded box around it. So to do that, we're going to go to our little menu here. You can also go to paragraph, but if I go to the little menu here and go to paragraph borders and shading, we're going to go to shading. Now, we could put a border around this and it'll draw a border, but I don't want a border. I want it shaded. So we're going to do a shade. Right now it comes through a cyan, but we want to switch to black, probably at 20%. And we want rounded corners. So as you can see right now, it is not rounded corners, it is straight corners. So we're going to tell it to do rounded corners. And the might be, all right, I'm going to tweak this. You see this, I think this is the perfect size. If you think that's rounded too much, we can go up or we can go down. But if we take a look at it, let's go ahead and click on OK. If we take a look at it now, you'll see how it really is super tight. And we want it to be offset a little bit. So we are going to offset it by going back to the shading and then coming down to the offset. So we're going to offset it by that 0.0625. All right. So now look at it. Now everything is a little tight and each side here is beyond the margin and we don't want that. So we're going to fix that. So here we're going to add a little bit more spacing after. And we are going to balance the ragged lines. We're going to tell it to be left justified. And we are going to do one more thing. All right, we are going to tell it to align to text to the width of the text and not the column. So by choosing column right here, it makes the gray from left to right fill the whole screen. But if we change it to text, it will fill just where the text is. All right. Now we still have this problem over here. So we're going to uncheck this and we're going to set the left to 0. And then we're going to make our left indent 0.0625, which caused another issue, which we'll solve in just a minute. And we will go back to paragraph borders and shading, and we are going to add that left indent back. And you will notice that that gives us a nice rounded grayscale box. All right, so now what we would do is we would set up paragraph styles. Now I've already done this, so we would set up paragraph styles so we could reproduce that, but I've already done that part, so I can go through and do this. So this will be text left and this is text name. And then I removed my colons, so this will be text name, this will be text left, and then here's where we get into the conversation. This is going to be text name, this is going to be text left. Now, because this is a conversation, we may want to change the grayscale, so to differentiate from the two people. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the shading to be, let's go back this way, paragraph borders and shading. We're going to increase the shading to 40%. And then I'm going to say, create a new style, text, I'm just going to call it 40, text 40. And then I'm going to change this to text 40 because all of my conversations from me are going to be in the 40%, whereas the conversations from the other people are going to be in the gray 20%. All right, so you would just go through and reset your chapter styles. I'm at your paragraph styles for these conversations. And I'm going to show you another thing that you can do. All right, now, there is a cool little tool in InDesign called the eyedropper tool. Okay, so what you can do to use the eyedropper tool is you select what you want changed, click on the eyedropper tool, and then select what you want it changed to. All right, so now I can go through and just say change all of these to that style. And this saves you a lot of time in the long run. Sorry, my mouse is not working properly. And so you can quickly, normally, it's going a little slow, quickly select all of those. And then you can do the same thing with this. So we know we want the Sierra Conversations to be in the box of the gray. So we'll do Sierra Gray, and then Noah's Conversations will be in the darker one. There we go. All right, easy peasy, that's how you do it. Now, in looking at this, I think we could go down in a point size for this font because it is, sans serif tend to look a little bit larger at the same point size than some serif fonts, and I believe, yeah. So we're going to decrease the font size to 10, just so it's not as big. We need to do the same here. Redefine stop. All right, so there you go. That's another way that you could do it, and we could easily reproduce this in the ebook, but we would need to manually add padding into the text 40 and the text left styles in the CSS for the ebook. We'd have to manually put in padding for it to be effective, which is something that this traditionally published book did not do. Now, also note that InDesign, we're not going to be able to tell it to just do the text, so it's gray the text area, so it's probably going to extend that gray box just like it did in this book here. So that's okay. That wouldn't be too terrible. But that padding is essential because, oh, I just wanted to throw this book upside the wall. I was like, I can't believe this is a traditionally published book and the formatting is done so poorly. And it wasn't just this particular formatting that threw me off, is the sizings were different. I know exactly why it did this. They did not optimize the graphics. So all the graphics came through huge. It just was poorly designed. So we do not want our ebooks to look like that. All right, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and don't hesitate to ask me your questions. And that way I can do some videos in the group. I am still working on the new videos. You may have heard that I am in the middle of a move. Luckily, my house is now under contract, and my new house is scheduled to be finished at the end of August, but we will be closing on my current house before the new house is done, so we're going to have to live in a hotel for 2 weeks. That's okay. And then I will finally be able to finish all the videos, all the new videos, and get them out to you. As I complete them and tweak them, I will definitely post them in the group. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, if you're struggling with anything, just make a post and I will do a video on it. All right? I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I will chat with you later.